Ladies and gentlemen, the following is another fantastic episode of the Wrestling Fast Podcast, Ringside Society. In one corner, we have the greatest thing on God's green earth. No, we're not talking about money, Mary Jane, or Popeye spinach. He's the tranquil dart of Ringside Society, Delaware's greatest American hero. And whenever he goes to Taco Bell, he asks for a cheap burrito because he loves the combination of chicken and beef. It takes two to make a thing go right. He's Rob Bass, and you are not. And the second corner, we have that ocean crossing, straight up Boston, flight catching, shot glass snatching. Where's he going next? Nobody knows. 3 continents down, 3 more to go. No cap, straight facts, the worldwide starboy, Remy Blue. But it's not about us. You see, we have a special guest tonight, a man who actually started off as lead commentator for One CW, which is actually where my co-host Rob Bass is a referee. And now he actually has taken it a step further and became a promoter of his own promotion. That's right, the Wrestling Independent. And they'll actually be doing big things in a couple of weeks because there'll be 1/4 of a joint show, what do you call it? I guess you call it a joint show that'll be in New Jersey. Everybody, welcome to the show, the Wrestling Independent owner, promoter, Mike Fresh.
How's everybody doing? I'm
How you doing tonight, Mike?
You guys on one thing. I actually started in wrestling in 2001. I had a radio show way back then. I helped Blue Meanie run 3PW for a little bit. I was out there when Ring of Honor and MLW first started and CZW was blowing up. So,
wow, this man has a lot of history, man. Hey, if nobody has thanked you before, you know, you're going to hear it from us. But if they've thanked you before, I guess you're going to hear it for the 100th time. On behalf of myself, Rob Bass, and Kathy Knight, our other co-host, and the rest of our Ringside Society crew, you know, thank you for all that you've given us in professional wrestling. And but with that being said, man, you know, you guys got a big show coming up, All for One, and it's funny because I was actually listening to an old song. Rob, I know you probably remember this song too. It was from Three Musketeers, and it was called All for Love, by Rod Stewart, Sting, and Bryan Adams. Mm-hmm. And for those of you youngins that don't know about those 3 men, if you love like rock music and all that stuff, I guess you call them alternative if you want to go that far. But check those 3 men out. They're hella talented, legends in the game. But when I heard that song, I was your guys' joint show popped up in my head, and I was like, wow. I'm actually excited. I'm trying my best to attend it. But I gotta ask you, man. You know, I normally ask like 99% of our guests that we have on the show. How did it all start for you? What was the main event, the match, or the main event, or the pay-per-view that got you into professional wrestling?
I'll talk about that in 1 second. But actually, we have a show Saturday as well.
Oh right, not bad. I forgot.
Over in Constotters in Philly. Tickets are on sale for that right now. I also have tickets on sale on the All for One. If you just go to tinyurl.com/the Wrestling Independent, all of our tickets and events are on that. But what got me into wrestling? So there were 2 main things. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, obviously Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, all that. The first thing that, and you know, that was just kind of the thing to do in the 80s with your friends, right?
Right.
But the first thing that really stuck out to me was the Razor Ramon 1, 2, 3 Kid ladder matches.
Okay.
That was really the first time I became a fan. And like how you do, I stepped away for a couple years, but then in 19, and I only stepped away for like a year or 2 when you see the timeline. Then I think it was August of 93 or 94. I think it was 93. My grandfather passed away, and my grandmother had one of those old black boxes for cables to show my age. when you had the black boxes, you can get pretty much any channel and all the pay-per-views
Okay.
and stuff, right? And we turned on, and we were kind of down because of everything. My grandmother was asking me if I wanted to watch some wrestling. I said absolutely, because she was really into wrestling when she was younger. And we turn on the wrestling pay-per-view. It was WCW. I can't remember the exact pay-per-view, but it was the Chris Benoit Kevin Sullivan arena Falls Count Anywhere arena match, which was just a classic. And just watching that match, the brutality of it and the vitality with the way they were telling the story really brought me back into wrestling.
Wow, that was a way to actually um find your way. Although I know Chris Benoit, nobody really wants to acknowledge him because of what he did. But that was a really great, really. I remember that match. They fought all in the. I think that was the first time I ever saw. No. I saw one before that. It was Macho Man and Crush at WrestleMania 10. But that was like the first time I ever saw a match. I think end up in the bathroom where they're fighting by the urinals and all that. Yeah, that was a classic match. That's wow. That's definitely a way to find your way back in, and with two talented men in Chris Benoit and Kevin Sullivan. Yeah, that was definitely a time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah, and with Chris Benoit, I think it's safe at this point to say that you can admire what he did in the business, but you really can't forgive him for what happened at the end. At least that's how I feel about it. I'm not one of those
Yeah,
people
yeah,
who like getting into
yeah.
politics and stuff, but I think that it's okay to appreciate what he did in the ring.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've came to terms with that. Like, you know, him, and even when you look at and I don't like to mention this other guy. And it's funny because he was Chris Benoit's idol, Dynamite Kid. When you hear about stuff that they did, yeah, it's kind of messed up. I mean, Dynamite Kid didn't murder anybody, but if you know, you know. But
Mhm.
their body of work in professional wrestling, you can't help but deny. But those men put out some classics.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. So back in '93, I remember 1993 very well. That was wow, that was one of the most memorable matches. Well, not one- well, one of many memorable matches I remember was Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels. I'll never forget that. That was a lot of people may not remember that, but I remember that match very well. And it all started at WrestleMania 9, which many have dubbed the worst WrestleMania ever. And it culminated at not Survivor Series. It was SummerSlam. I'll never forget that. That was an interesting time.
Oh yeah, and then right after that, we get the Monday Night Wars. We get all this other stuff going on, and it's just been that's kind of when wrestling really picked back up because then you get WCW going into everything, Scott and or Hall and Nash jump and everything else, and it just that really was like the time to become a wrestling fan.
Yeah, definitely. So since because I'm up there in age, so I'm 40. I know I'm not gonna put Rob's business out there, but I don't know if he's from that because I try, but I'm from the age where I started watching in 1990, and I was during that era where you got it on Saturday, you got it on Sunday, and then that was it. Unless you had the cool parents that ordered the pay-per-views, you either heard about it from friends, or you saw stills of it on the next episode of wrestling. But looking back at wrestling then and looking at how it is now, would you say it's definitely picked back up, or would you say it's not the same? Like it's something else?
Well, I think wrestling now on a global scale is bigger, but one of the things that we tend to forget, and obviously things like streaming, and it's really hard to get an aggregate of all the numbers and everything. But I don't think people realized back in the late 90s. I mean, we're talking about like, oh, it's, SmackDown, only does like 2.5 million viewers, and Raw usually gets around 2 million. Back in the heyday in the 90s, and I think people tend to forget about this, Raw and Nitro were doing like 8.0. They were doing in the eights, the sevens, the sixes, and I think at that time wrestling in America was a lot bigger. But now I think it's more on a global scale. I think if
Oh
any of the
yeah.
companies hit the numbers that they did in the 90s, they'd lose their mind.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But either way, it's definitely now. I look at it now, and it's like, if you really look at it, you could watch wrestling every single day with so much stuff that's going on, and the way the internet has actually made it so accessible. It's so unbelievable. It's a lot to watch. Definitely, it's a lot to watch.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I will say. Because back growing up, and Rob, you know this too. Like I said, but I'm not going to put your business out there. But back in the day, we had three that we watched. It was WWF, WCW, and ECW. That
Mm-hmm.
was pretty much it. You didn't really get to see New Japan. I don't know. I don't know how people, if anybody ever got to see New Japan live, like on cable. But you had those three, and that was it. If you went to your local indie promotion, that's fine. But those were the only three that you really had that you got to watch on TV.
Yeah, you pretty much had to become what was called back then a tape trader, where and I was lucky in Philadelphia. RF Video was around. Obviously ECW. I never got a chance to go to the ECW arena while ECW was still there, but the years following its fall, I mean, you had Jersey All Pro Wrestling, Jersey Championship Wrestling, XPW, 3PW, Chikara, all ran out of there. You had CZW running out of there for Cage of Death 3 and 4. I mean, there was a good time. And it's actually what I'm trying to do with the Wrestling Independent. There was a good time where, like, every weekend there was somebody running in the ECW, the old ECW arena. And I'm trying to, with the Wrestling Independent, bring that feeling of excitement back to Philadelphia. And that's really what one of my main goals is to make Philadelphia a place not just for the big companies to stop over or for people just to say, oh, I got to wrestle in Philadelphia. Like, I want to be the company in Philadelphia that people come for. And when everybody else comes here, they kind of feel like they're stepping on my turf.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really great. Philadelphia definitely has a rich history, and I'm actually excited to go. I fully intend, if everything goes the way it should, I intend to be in Philadelphia. I actually intend on going to y'all's All for One shows, to which we're gonna get into real soon. We're gonna get into in a minute. But I gotta ask you, man. So you started. So you grew up as a fan. You're cheering your favorites. You're going to your local shows and whatnot. How did your journey go from Mike Fresh, wrestling fan, to now Mike Fresh, lead announcer for 1CW, and now wrestling promoter? How'd that journey go for you?
Um, when I went to college, there was a community / college radio station that was there. And my first passion for work was radio. That's what I was trained in. I've run a couple stations in my time, but that was at the time that satellite radio took over. So radio work got really scattered and hard to get into with some things. Um, with While I was at the station, it was WBZC in Burlington County. There was a show that was on called Wrestling Radio, and they were getting ready to wrap up their show after doing it for like 3 or 4 years or however long that they did it for. And so that created a hole in the schedule. And me and my friend Ben Johnson, who should be at the show on Saturday, started a wrestling show called the Wrestling Fiasco. Now, we originally got upset because it came on like a month after ECW folded. And we're like, oh man, this is going to stink, like, ECW, but we'll still do what we have to do. Right after we started, the college it was on at the time was called Burlington County College. They used to run with the United Wrestling Coalition, who still run in Jersey now. And they would run on the campus, I think every August and then every December. Well, there was a very important wrestler who was the first person to leave um, WWF developmental, and was also the person that, if you listen to William Regal when he did interviews, when he was doing his podcasts and everything, said reignited his passion for wrestling, which was this guy, Reckless Youth. Reckless Youth, the original King of the Indies. He also, along with Mike Quackenbush, started Chikara. And because they were doing the UWC shows, I was able to get Reckless Youth and Mike Quackenbush on quite a good amount of times, along with their other partner, Don Montoya, who's sometimes known as Dirty Don Montoya. And that gave the show some credibility, them coming on the show. Again, this was before Chikara. I remember them talking about Chikara and wanting to start Chikara. And it just so happened that then Fat Frank from JCW decided he wanted to run in the ECW arena. Through Frank, I got to meet people like Ricky Otuza. I got to meet people like Dennis Carluzzo, some other very big promoters in the time, very legendary promoters. I remember Ricky Otuza a couple months after the Sanjay Dutt thing happened. There's a whole thing where he would rant about something Sanjay did in his house. I got to see people like the Briscoe brothers go from these teenagers into becoming these legends. I got to meet all of these people. And more importantly, I got to be behind the scenes, invited, of course, when companies like Ring of Honor were founded. I spent the good first year and a half going to all of their shows. When 3PW started, I ended up helping, that promotion for a little bit. I got to be behind the scenes. I have an interview with John Zandig from Take One, where he, for whatever reason, he interviewed me right next to a speaker talking about how the ashes of ECW fell and CZW was going to rise from the ashes as the new great thing. And, I got to see XPW, MLW, the first few shows that they started, because they originally started in Philly as well. And it was this really cool, wonderful time. I got to meet people like Dusty Rhodes, Todd Gordon, Abdullah the Butcher, New Jack, and of course the Blue Meanie, and all these people, the Sandman, and all these people that meant so much from wrestling. And Rob knows from being with me at the 1CW shows, I'm usually one of the quietest people in the locker room. And that's because I'm really listening to everybody. I'm listening to the conversations. I'm listening to everything that everybody's saying. And then about 2004, I dropped out because I got married. I had a kid. And then Ring of Honor put on a show, I think it was 2019. And it was the cage match with Matt Taven and Vincent. And the first match of this show had this really spunky, amazing woman who just drew everybody to them. And you could see how excited they were, named Willow Nightingale, which I think a lot of people have probably heard of by now. And when we went into, and then everything shut down, right, because of COVID. And as we were coming out of COVID, I made it my goal to start a podcast. And the goal of the podcast was to eventually be able to talk to Willow, because she really is what drew me back into wrestling. And from the podcast, I ended up meeting Sean Hardy and Sean Carlson. They gave me a chance to kind of hone my craft with doing commentary for matches that were never aired. So I appreciate all the love to Sean Hardy and Sean Carlson. And then, I was having fun with everything, but I have a very certain vision of wrestling. And not to toot my own horn, I think the vision that I have for wrestling is really a clear, concise vision with what I want to do, how I want to do it. And I think with with the first show that we put on, Woke Up This Morning, it really cemented that. I think there were some people that were hoping that I was going to fail. I definitely know there were some people talking trash about it before. And I think that with that show, it showed that no, like, oh, this guy's been paying attention. This guy's heard a lot of things. He's really kind of put together a show. And I think if you look at the show we have on Saturday, Philly's Paradise, I think it shows just that again, that I really, am passionate about what I'm doing, and that I'm not, I don't want to be, I don't know if the term gets thrown around anymore because I really haven't heard it, but what in the early 2000s we would call a shindy, someone that was just kind of there, they kind of did their thing, and you could tell that they were just kind of feeding their own ego. I really want to do this to bring a passion for wrestling back into Philly and not make it a fly-by-night promotion.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you actually succeeded, and that you proved the naysayers wrong. And I hope that there's many. I'm hoping that there's many more shows, because I remember Rob telling us that when Rob told us first told us about it, he was like, "Yeah, we got a forge for a joint show coming up with 3 other promotions. There's one CW, there's All Atlantic, All Star Wrestling, there's 3 Legacies, and then there's the Wrestling Independent." I was like, huh? I'm like, wait a minute, I heard that name. Isn't that the podcast? I'm like, he does shows now. He's like, yeah, he does shows. I'm like, wow, that's good. Kudos to him. Like, I remember when you were doing your thing as a podcast, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty impressive. Very impressive. And I was like, wow, that's impressive, man. That's that you went from that to now you're a promoter. That's really awesome, man. I'm
and
looking, like I said, if everything goes right, I'll definitely be there checking out the show.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even now I'm setting myself up to learn from some of the best. I mean, Sean Hardy with 1CW is probably one of the longest running promotions. I know it's the longest running in Delaware. He's obviously done something right. DSN, we get, tens of thousands of people that stream us on the app. Being able to learn from Sean Hardy, being able to learn from Ricardo Rodriguez, who owns 3 Legacies, Dino Bello, who's been around for years. I mean, I really do take what I do seriously. There's some people that, I don't want to say I wouldn't take advice from, but I would take it with a grain of salt. And then there's people that I realize that they know what they're doing. I want to learn from them. I want to find out, how they do stuff. And I want to see how I can integrate everything that I learn and bring it together.
Man, the way y'all been going in Delaware, don't be surprised if and he hates certain people give him praise. I don't know why, but don't be surprised if one of the greatest minds I've ever seen in pro wrestling, Gabe Sapolsky, shows up at one of your shows. And if you know who that is,
oh, I know Gabe. I knew Gabe from way back when. I've met all these people that probably today couldn't pick me out from Adam. Like, I was at CM Punk's first match in Philly and Colt Cabana, and I know that if I bumped into them today, they'd have no clue who I was. But no, I got to learn a lot from Gabe. I've sat down with one of his seminars. I've been at shows that he's been at. Yeah, and it's the kind of thing 1CW definitely deserves a look at by Gabe.
Yeah, that guy. When I first heard, because I remember one time he had a post on Facebook or to his Twitter, and he was saying that how he was comparing like WWE to the silver screen, or the movies. You got TNA, which is I guess he called it the TV sitcoms, and he meant well with it. He wasn't insulting them. And you have Ring of Honor, which is the like the Broadway shows, and it all made perfect sense. He wasn't insulting them, but he made it like he put it in a way like people were like, yeah, you're right. That's pretty much what it is. And I was like, wow. And I listened to, he has these somewhat regular Twitter spaces, and I'm just like, I don't listen to a lot of spaces. Whenever I see his, I'm like, hey, I'm tuned in. I am listening. I don't want AEW or WWE could be showing that night, and I would listen to him more than watch that show. That's how serious it is.
Well, there's a reason he runs on Wednesday nights when he does those. But Gabe, I actually went to a seminar that he held at the Monster Factory. I think it was last year before I decided to start everything. And he said one thing that crystallized everything for me, and that was only hire people that make you look good. And that's something, and that's one of the reasons that when I tell people I only hire the best of the best out there, that's really why, because I really do look at everything. I'm like, is this going to make me look corny or is this going to make me look good? And just because I don't have someone on a show now doesn't mean that I'm not looking at them. And just because, you know, somebody was there and isn't there right now doesn't mean that I don't want them back. It's just there's only so many places on a card.
Wow. And speaking of cards, man, so you got, you guys have a part in that All for One show. And I'm gonna turn it over to I know Rob has a bunch of questions for you. But so tell us, All for One, man, the Wrestling Independent, you got the show coming up this Saturday, but just for the masses, those that are gonna be in the area that are not from the Delmarva area, as Rob calls it, what can they expect to see from the Wrestling Independent on that All for One? Like, what could they expect to see on the card?
I think we've got. So I've told the people that I have, it's your job to steal the show, and that's just how I feel. Whether we do or not, has got to be seen. We're definitely the opening for it. My matches, I have 4 right now. Adriana Mosley is a fantastic talent. I've worked with her a lot in 1CW. I've got her going up against Erica Lee, who is someone I think is a great, great talent. I've got Devlin Macabre, who I've seen grow so much over the past 2 years that I really kind of want to see what she has. And I have her facing one of my personal favorite wrestlers right now on the independent scene, Rebecca J. Scott. Yeah. Rebecca J. Scott's the real deal. Do you know her story? That she started wrestling as to put on a birthday show for her boyfriend at the time.
I heard that she started and then she stopped, and then CCW Marcello, when we had him on here, he brought her back on. He brought her back in. He persuaded her to give it another shot, and she's been killing it even on an international level. Like, I just saw her in Japan with Megan Bain, and that's what I know so far. But if you'd like to tell it, I mean, by all means. I mean, this is your spotlight, man. Go ahead.
Nah, that's pretty much what I know about everything with her. And then we have 2 matches that I think could easily steal any show. That is the world famous Cheeseburger versus Jarrett Diaz. Jarrett's my boy. I love Jarrett. I think everything he does is so good and so smooth. The fact that he's not signed somewhere is seriously, I think he's one of the most underrated performers. And Cheeseburger's Cheeseburger. I mean, the guy couldn't put on a bad match if he tried. And then the one that I'm most excited for, because it features my personal favorite independent wrestler, as well as somebody who's not from this area, but has been blowing it up all over Canada and Japan. The North Star, Evan Rivers. I believe he was 156 on the PWI 500 this past year. And versus Vita Von Star. Vita Von Star, someone, again, who, her not being signed somewhere is a tragedy right now.
Yeah, we've had the pleasure of having Vita on here. Very cool person. I told Vita, like, if you ever were my fitness, I would never want to work out with you because you would kill me. I would not be able to feel my legs. I'd probably be in a wheelchair for the next 1 or 2 weeks. And she's like, yeah, she does push her clients. So, but yeah, it's surprising that she hasn't. And it's funny because I thought when she appeared with, was it The Awakening? That group with Dutch and Vinny Marseglia. I thought she was signed with them. I think she appeared in Ring of Honor. I'm like, and when I found out she was, I'm like, why is she not signed? Like, she could do great things, but I guess that's the wrestling business for you. I don't know.
I mean, even outside of wrestling, she's like a trained acrobatist and does does like aerial acrobats and stuff like that. So I mean, she's super talented.
Oh yeah. But that's definitely gonna be that definitely looks like a great card. I guess I'm gonna try my best to head over there. How far? Robbie says 20 minutes from Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, it's not far, man. It's like, yeah, 15, 20, right over the bridge. It's like right there.
Yeah, it
I
literally
have
is at the
family that lives in.
intersection of like everything that crosses into Philly.
Yeah. I
Oh,
have
okay.
a family that live in Cherry Hill, and Cherry Hill's like right near there, and it's like, Cherry Hill's
Yeah,
15 from Philly, so stuff
Williamstown's a
like that.
little farther south though, so it's actually a
Yeah.
little bit closer coming out of Delaware. So
Oh, okay. I'm gonna definitely try my best to make it over there for those shows because I like what I'm hearing so far. And Erica Lee, if I'm not mistaken, didn't she win the ECWA Super 8
she
women's
did.
tournament?
She
What?
absolutely did. I mean, it's
For
like
those of y'all,
it's exactly like I try to say. Like I try to hire the best of the best, and Erica
for,
Lee I've never seen in a bad match.
so for those of y'all that are listening and watching right now, did y'all hear who this man has on the card? Head over there because trust me, you will not be, you're getting a former ECWA Super 8 tournament winner. You're getting an international superstar. You're getting one of the baddest women in the game, Big Daddy Adriana Mosley. Y'all, trust me, if you're not from the Delmarva area, check out TWI. Head over to that show. Trust me, I'm gonna try my best to make that card. That is, I'm gonna try my best to make all four of those cards that day because I like what I'm hearing and I know it's gonna be exciting. So I just got like one last question, before I turn it over to Rob. I know he's chomping at a bit right now.
Mhm.
So you've done this is gonna be your third short wrestling. You got woke up this morning. You have your
Philly's
upcoming show
Paradise.
on Saturday,
Yep.
and then you have All for Love. Um,
All for
no,
one.
All for One. Sorry, my
Like the
bad. I still got that
2003
Rod
game.
Stewart, Sting, Brian Adams song stuck in my head. So you have All for One coming up. So 3 shows in, man. So what advice would you give somebody? And you've been around the wrestling game for 20 plus years now, maybe even more. What advice would you give somebody who's looking to get in either as a lead commentator or as a promoter?
Everything's about passion and learning from the people around you. My commentating game was okay. 1CW brought in Jason Heat, who's one of the best minds in wrestling, and my commentating game went straight up. Again, I had to learn from people before I could confidently try to put my money where my mouth is. And also, especially with promoting, you're going to lose some your first couple shows, and that's okay, but you really have to be honest with yourself that, you know, as long as you stick with it, you're going to do better. I can tell you this show we have right now, um 35-40% more pre-sales than we did this time going into it last show. So I mean, just getting your name out, and to be a promoter, it is legwork. It is a lot of footwork. You cannot be lazy on it, because if you are, you're not going to get any return.
So for those of y'all that just heard that, you got some advice from a lead commentator and promoter who's been around the business for 20 plus years. Anything else, you probably got to hit him up with that on that Cash App or that PayPal, but you got a little something from him, courtesy of Ringside Society. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Rob. I know Rob is like, Remy, what the hell, man? I got my questions to ask. So, Rob, don't kill me, man. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Remy. So what's going on, Mike, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing? You feeling better?
Yeah, man. I'm better, man. I got home today and all, man. I'm good to go. Blood counts up. You know what I mean? I'm kind of all right, just chilling, just hanging out.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I
Yeah,
know we
man. Thanks
share
for
some of the
asking.
same ailments, so
Yeah, I know, man. Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, it's just, yeah. Well, actually, I got they just let me go last night at like 11 o'clock. I was in the hospital or whatever, and it was like 11 at night, and they're like, "Oh, your blood count's up. Do you want to leave now?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll go home." I ain't trying to sit here all night and then wait till 8 in the morning, or whatever. Like, yeah, I'll go. Shoot. So man, you're talking about your all for one show, man. I just gotta say, having Adriana on there, man, that's awesome because I've actually trained with her and stuff, and she's beaten me up so much in training. One time she hit me in the head so hard, I thought I was Larry from Three's Company. I walked over to this Carlson, and I was like, Jack, twins, my place, hot tub. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, no, Adriana is amazing. She's got a bright future.
hmm Now you're just talking about, all for one. You listed your matches and all, man. But before that, you have a show this Saturday. So tell us about that. What kind of matches do we have on there, and who might be making appearances there, and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? Because
I
yeah,
mean,
I've seen some of the matches on there, and whoo, man, you got some there. There's definitely some talent.
oh yeah, we've got Brian Morris versus Twitch. Twitch is someone who I'm very big on. Same thing with Brian Morris. I think those two have bright futures in front of them. Marvelous versus Miles, Millennium versus Harleen Lopez. Harleen Lopez is a very, very hard hitter. And I mean, when she puts it up to 11, I mean, she's just incredible. We've got Ty Awesome versus Vita Von Star, which is a match that I'm personally looking forward to. Our main event is CMD versus Kaz Evans and PJ Savage versus the Regulators, Sean Carlson and Josh Windsor. Yeah, and it's like I said, I want people that are going to come on. They're going to kill it every time that they're there. One of my big things is they'll tell you like, I'm just passionate and I tell them everything that's going on. I mean, we've just got so much going on. Ultraviolet, Deborah Macabre. We've got, I know we've got somebody that I'm forgetting right now. But we've just got a ton of matches on there that I'm really looking forward to.
Oh yeah, man, yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I seen the line. I've seen some of the matches. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. And that tag match, you got Carlson and Trucker Josh, the Regulator Express. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can't go wrong with that, man. They're great.
I'm also really looking forward to Jay Sky versus Tiberius because that's just going to be a
Ooh.
slugfest. That's going to
Yeah,
be
it is.
about
Yeah,
who's stronger and who like knocks the other one out.
that's right. You know what I mean? Like Big E says, you know what I mean? Big men, slapping meat, bumping meat. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's right. Can't go wrong with that. Now, you got Saturday and all that, WrestleMania. Do you have anything for the Wrestling Independent after that, or are you playing it by ear right now?
I've got the date for the next show. I'm not announcing it just yet. It's going to be in late May.
Okay.
But I still need to see how these matches go to see where I want to see how I want to structure that show. Because, like I said, all of my matches are very deliberate. All of my matches are very well planned out. I like keeping things consistent, and I really don't like to have matches just to have them.
That's right. And now, not only that, man, you have an awesome commentary team. You know what I mean? Tell us, how'd you assemble that commentary team? Not only you got the commentary team, you got, your backstage interviewers and ring announcers and stuff. Man. How did you do that? How'd you get the Avengers to come together?
I know Rosaria Elsa from CZW and from CCW. I worked in CZW for a cup of coffee, so I got a chance to know her a little bit there. Definitely when she was doing this stuff down in Delaware. So she's somebody, if you can get her on a card to do ring announcing, you want to do it. Savannah, I've known personally through, or not personally, but I've known through a lot of different shows. We worked a lot of events together. Brian Murphy, who is somebody that here's a little bit of a backstory to tell you guys how nice this gentleman is. When I was first starting out on commentary, Danny Cage let me come to the Monster Factory just to practice for a little bit. So I got a chance to work with Brian Murphy personally. And then, believe it or not, I think it's one of those things where people are already starting to recognize us. And Veda Scott reached out to us. So when she reached out to us, how the heck can I say no to that? I mean, you're not going to say no to probably the best commentator in the business right now.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. Yeah, yeah, you gotta be doing something right. You know what I mean? If she's gonna reach out to you and be like, yeah, you know what I mean? You need some help, da, 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 hey. I'm all for that. Now going to back to one CW, man. How did you were talking about practicing commentary, man? How long did it take for you to feel comfortable to first do your first show commentary? Because that's like the one thing like I'm afraid to do, and I don't think I could do. Because when I guess signed my contract with Hardy and Carlson, they're like you're gonna be a utility man, like wherever we need you, you go do it. I'm like, yeah, I got you. You know what I mean? But commentary is the one I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. You know what I mean? Like I'd be sweating and like, did it take you a while or?
It took me a while to really learn how to call a match. I mean, I'm sure if Carlson had tapes of those first matches that I did, they were horrible. But again, I also kind of have a radio background. Mm-hmm. Commentary wasn't something that it was something I always wanted to try. Because I know I'm not an in front of the camera person. I'm just not. That's not who I am. But I think it's something I've grown into. It's really about knowing your stuff. One of the things that probably bugs Jason Heat a little bit is while I have my notes, most of the stuff that I have is up here. And that's because, like a lot of other people, I have ADHD, a little bit on the spectrum. So if I write stuff down, it gets too confusing for me. That's just because I think all over the place and like things are just going all over. So for me, a lot of it is thinking about what I want to say, how I'm going to say it, what's going on. I'm not one of those people that likes knowing the outcome of the match before. And I really like, again, it goes back to studying, sitting and learning and listening to people.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, not only are you a commentator, you're also the 1CW general manager. Now, how did you get that job, man? How'd that job come about, man? I mean, that's a pretty cool job there, man. You get, set the matches and all. I'm like, man.
It really was. Hardy was going through a little bit of his Styles phase that, he kicks into every now and again, and they just kind of needed somebody to get some order in that place. Haven't been doing too much lately, but, it all depends on whenever they need me.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, because I'll see you and Jason, back there, when you're getting ready for the commentary stuff, man. He's got that notebook, man. I mean, with all his notes, and I'm just like, ooh, yeah, I'm impressed. I mean, that's awesome. Man.
Well, one of the things that people don't know about Jason is he does like real video production. He's worked on television shows and film projects, so he really is super detail oriented because that's the kind of business that if you're not, everything's just gonna fall apart.
Oh yeah. Yeah, y'all do such a great job and stuff, man. Yeah, because when I watch, 1CW on DelmarvaSportsNetwork.com, and sometimes if you're in the area, you can catch it at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. Y'all definitely, I'm like, yeah, sell the match and all, man. I'm like, yeah, I like this. And not only that, we've had people, when we interview Hardy and all, they're like, yeah, Mike Fresh, we need him on the show. We'll get Mike Fresh on. We got that.
Oh, and I straight out tell. I tell Hardy, like, I'm his for however long he'll take me. That dude's like a mentor to me. He's like an uncle.
Oh yeah, man. Him and Carlson, man. They took me under their wing also, man. And like, it was like blessed me and was like, here, man. I was like, all right. I don't know what I did, but okay. Yeah, I can never repay them, man. I feel like it's one of them things, man. If I win the lottery and I gave them each like 10 million or whatever, I still would feel like that's not enough. You know what I mean? What y'all have done for me, man? Like, yeah.
And they're great people to learn from. I mean, I like keeping people around me who I think are smarter than me. And, in doing that, that's what helps you grow. People that, walk into every room and think that they're the smartest person in the room really are usually the stupidest. I walk in and I assume that people know something that I don't know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and Hardy and them there. Yeah, it's a great crew over there, man. Yeah, we get in and get out. You know what I mean? All that good stuff, man. They do the thing up there, man. I love working with 1CW. It's pretty good. Now I gotta ask, you were mentioning earlier, man, working for the Blue Meanie, with the Blue Meanie and stuff, man. What was that like with the Blue Meanie, man? Because I grew up, I was born in 1982, and ECW was my stuff, man. I love the Blue Meanie, Stevie Richards and stuff, the BWO, Yeah, when tons of fun goes out and dance, I still do the blue meanie, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
what was it
just
like
how I
working with
dance at
him, man? That's
parties
gotta
now.
be awesome.
No, that's just how I dance. Blue Meanie was probably the most normal one that I worked with there. It was for him. I used to do a lot of leg work. I did a ton of flyering from him. Um, I was actually what got me on was at the time he was going out with Jasmine St. Clair, and she kind of wanted somebody out here who like she could like talk to about stuff and that she could run ideas by. I sometimes say that I was quote unquote her assistant a little bit, but they just gave me so much to do, and I was all about taking in whatever they wanted me to do. Um, and Blue Meanie was an awesome guy to work for. We're still, we still talk every now and again. He was an awesome guy to work for. I've got tons of stories from the first time I met New Jack to having to be Ron Jeremy's chauffeur, to having to break up fights and stuff like that, also being on security and you know talking about stuff in the back. And it was an incredible time. It was probably the
Man, have you
dream job of every
have
21-year-old.
now have you heard Craig Prendergast New Jack story? If you haven't, next one CW show or next time you see him, you gotta ask him about that. That's a crazy story right there. I ain't gonna share it on air. I'll let him do it, but woo.
Oh no, the first time I met New Jack, I thought he was going to legit kill me for like the first like 5 minutes because the way he was
Oh,
just messing with me.
oh man, I believe it, man. Oh man. Now, yeah, you mentioned being a chauffeur for Ron Jeremy, man. How'd that come about, man? What'd you have to do?
It was
How'd that
just
do?
for
Was he
he
a
came
snow?
in one show for a wet T-shirt contest,
Okay.
and I had to drive him around for he got to the arena. I had to drive him to dinner afterwards, then drive him to his hotel, and it was just one of the weirdest experiences ever. Some things I can't really talk about on air, but it was just a weird experience. At the time, again, I was a 21-year-old kid, so I mean, you know, it was for me, it was just really exciting, and obviously, the past couple years, we've kind of learned a little bit about him that we'd rather not know. But for a 21-year-old, early 2000s, it was just a mind blowing experience.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I'm right along with you on that one, man. Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. I couldn't imagine, yeah, what would happen that night because I've heard stories of people like, that you had to drive this person around. Like, there was one I've heard about, like Old Dirty Bastard from Wu Tang. Somebody was
Mhm.
like, I had to drive him around after the show. I was like, woof, man. I mean, he was like, man, he wanted to go out. No, he wanted to go out, man. Like, yeah, he wanted to go look for some stuff. And I was like, all right.
Well, we went to dinner after the show, and some girls found him, and I had to drive them all back to his hotel room at the end of the night.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. Yeah. So, I gotta, being around the wrestling stuff, man. You gotta have some funny, show stories or something, man. Are there any you can share or whatever? And you can change the name, protect the innocent if you need to.
Oh no, I'll straight out tell him. One of my favorite stories to tell is the night that the first time that he brought in Abdullah the Butcher. Abdullah and Dusty had a bull rope match. Um, and Abdullah comes out with or pulls up to the arena with his manager. They're out. They climb out of the car that they're in, and we're waiting. And I apologize for calling it the ECW arena. I know everybody calls it the 2300 arena. Back then, it was still the ECW arena. You wouldn't even recognize it if you went to the 2300 arena. Like they look so different after the renovations. So to me, it's almost like two different time periods. Abdullah the Butcher gets out of his car. Again, back then everything was a lot more grungy in that area. It looked like a white painted warehouse that had some bleachers in it. And we're waiting for them. He got there so early, and I got there so early because I was with them that that they hadn't opened up the building yet. And then I see Abdullah turn and talk to his manager, and like he had like a worried look on his face. And I turn to his manager. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Well, boss, I gotta pee." I'm like, "Well, they're opening up the door in like 2 minutes." He's like, "No, I gotta pee." I'm like, "Dude, like they're getting ready to open up the door. Just hold on a minute, and like we're gonna get in." And he just whips it out and starts peeing all over the side of the ECW arena. Literally, as he's doing it, the woman opens up the door to let us in.
Wow.
I also one of Kid Cash came in for a show, and the night before we were going out to I forget where it was. It was probably like an IHOP or a Denny's or something like that. And he ordered a steak, and he said, "I want it as rare as you can make it." They come out, they bring him his steak. He's like, "No, this isn't rare enough." So they come out, they bring another steak. "No, this isn't rare enough." They went through about 4 steaks before he just asked if he could go in the back and grill his own steak. And they let him. He literally just put it on the grill, picked it up, turned it over, put it back on the grill, put it on his plate, and brought it out to eat.
Man, yeah, I don't know about that, man. I gotta have my steak a little bit cooked, but be cooked more than that, man. I can't be like, yeah, just run under some hot water and send it on out, man. I can't do that, you know. I mean, I gotta have it, the little pink in the middle and stuff. I can't have it like that, you know. What I mean, I don't want it still alive, mooing at me.
I also knew a wrestling company that whenever a wrestling couple, I'm not going to say who it was, that whenever they got insurance on their car for their car, they would end up like, power bombing each other on the hoods outside the restaurant after making it look like they got into a fight, and then drive it back. And when they would ask them what happened, like, "Oh," but they had the insurance, so it didn't matter.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's better than that. I remember watching Jackass back in the day where they rented that car from and took it to the demolition derby and then just brought it back and all. Man, I don't even think they got the insurance on that one, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made me think of. Oh, now before I pass it on to Remy, man, I do got to ask this. You know what I mean? Because I'm always in search of new movies and TV shows to watch. But are there anything? Because I always watch the same things like comfort shows. Is there anything new or new movies or shows that you've watched lately, and you'd be like, oh man, you should check this out or whatever?
Honestly, I'm one of those people. I cycle through a lot of the same shows. As far as movies, I thought Playful Things was really good, or the one with Emma Stone in it. Right now, I am so out of the loop. I have a film class that I teach at school, so like we watch old movies and that.
Okay.
My kick lately has been rewatching my favorite series, which is Californication. Hands down, my favorite series ever on TV. And my wife and I started watching the new Night Court. So I got nostalgia, and I'm rewatching the old Night Court back when they used to have the 22 episodes a season. Yeah. So I'm working my way through that.
Yeah, I've never seen Californication, man. I've seen it. I've always seen it, come up and all. I've heard things, but I've just never seen it. It's the one with it's David Duchovny's in it, right?
David Duchovny. He's like he's like one of these like angsty writers and everything goes wrong for him, but it's really all his fault. It's a crazy show.
And if I could add it to an era-esque for a bit, there's a lot of raunchy sex in it.
Oh yeah, there is.
Oh man, that's pretty cool too.
The first episode, he ends up sleeping with a girl that he finds out later is his ex-wife's 16-year-old stepdaughter. He legit thought she was like a college student, and that plays out over the first 4 seasons, like the ramifications of that and everything.
And then there was Rick Springfield. I could never look at him the same way again.
Yeah.
Wait, was it Rick Springfield?
Rick Springfield was in it. One of my personal favorite musicians, Tim Minchin, was in it. I mean, they had some really big power hitters come in and out of that. Tommy Lee does a guest scene where he sings Home Sweet Home on a piano. They really brought some people in and out of that. Yeah.
That was a Rob, you gotta check it out. It was something. Let's just say you won't look at David Duchovny the same way you did if you watched X-Files. That's
yeah.
It's one of those.
It's closer to his Red Shoe Diary days that he did before X-Files.
I watched Red Shoe Diaries when I was a young man. I had a black box also. My mom and dad had one, and
So
yeah,
I've got a Red
man,
Shoe
I ain't gonna
Diaries
lie.
story. I have a
I
cousin who's an actor, and my grandmother told me that he was on that he did a new show. And she's like, "Come on, let's sit down and watch it." She puts it on. It's Red Shoe Diaries. I'm like, "No." I'm not watching my cousin Roger have a sex scene. I am
yeah.
perfectly fine with that. Apparently she didn't know about the sex scene part, but she put it on. I saw the opening. I'm like, "No." I'm like, "We're not watching Roger in this."
Yeah, yeah, I remember. I can't remember what came on. It was either Showtime or Cinemax. 'Cause I remember after that, it was like Emmanuel in space or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So something like that. So man, yeah, like you were saying real quick, man. Teaching film school, man. You watch older films, man. What are your favorite like older films, and what do you like to watch?
I really like watching. I really like teaching Psycho because there's so much that you can learn from filmmaking on that with that movie. I love showing Pulp Fiction. I think a lot of kids that haven't seen it really get into it. Um, I show Seven because I think that's great for that kind of thing. I like kind of just bringing in everything. But the two things I'm not a fan of are Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
Hmm. Yeah, I can't do the Lord of the Rings, man. Lord of the Rings is too long, man. I've tried to watch the movies like so many times. The
It-
Hobbit,
it-
I've tried to watch.
there's like
I'm like,
what, four of them? It's 12 hours of walking to drop a ring.
yeah. I tried to watch it. I was actually tried. I was like, you know what? It's been 20 years. I've never fully seen the movies. I'm gonna try and watch it. It was on HBO Max, and I was like, oh, extended edition, like 3.5 hours. I was like, maybe I'll take a break. And I was just like, man, I
Yeah,
can't.
no.
I'm good. I'm good. Star Wars, that's my stuff. I like Star Wars. I always grew up with that, man. But yeah, Lord of the Rings, I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't do it.
I mean, but if you're talking about some of my personal favorite stuff, then we're going into Jerry Lewis, we're going into Abbott and Costello and things like that.
Yeah. See, I love me some old school westerns. I mean, my mom and dad they grew up. The Clint Eastwood, John Wayne. Clint Eastwood, I think he's like probably one of the most hardcore, cowboys ever. What I mean, I don't care who comes since, man. I love Clint Eastwood, man. He's my
Hmm.
god. Yeah, because my dad and I we had these debates about, man, who do you think Clint Eastwood would kick John Wayne's ass? And my dad's like, yeah. Yeah, I think John Wayne's a beast, but Clint Eastwood's badass. What I mean, he got that stare. What I mean.
John Wayne also like didn't like what he was doing, so there is that too.
Yeah, I think he played football and he just got into acting because he was like at USC and so that's what I think. So it was like, hmm. But yeah, man. Before I pass it on to Remy, I do want to say, thank you very much for coming on chatting with us, man. I'm very hyped up for the shows coming up, man. I hope you knock it out of the park. Are you going on first on in April or because I know we're
Yeah,
going
we're
on
going on
second.
first. We're
Okay.
going on we're going on very first on April. So and you want to know what, in wrestling there's a saying, if you're not going on last, you want to go on first because that's where you really set the tone for a show.
Hmm. Yeah, man. Again, because I'm like, oh man, once CW got to follow you, and you just announced that lineup. It's like, ooh, yeah, yeah. We definitely got. Yeah, we gonna bring it. We're gonna bring it on the fourth, man. They have no clue what they're getting into out there over in
Well, you
Jersey.
also know I'm team ride or die for 1CW. So
Oh yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, all four of us, man. We're gonna tear it up, man. They on New Jersey's gonna, they're gonna be hit with a hurricane or something, man. What I mean? Like, yeah, they're gonna be hit with something. But yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say, thank you very much, for, everything you do, all that good stuff, man. I mean, I can't thank you enough. I hope all your shows go successful. I wish you, your family, and all nothing but the best, and continue success in all y'all's future endeavors, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, Mike, I just gotta say, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to shoot the breeze about, your wrestling career and your new promotion and everything. We hope that this is the beginning of TWI's. Well, I mean, you guys have already been successful, but we hope this. We wish you ongoing success. We hope that you guys sell out. I still got to try and grab a ticket. Grab tickets for the rest. I haven't bought any tickets yet because I'm still trying to figure out, you know, how my day is gonna go. But I'm gonna try my best to get down there, check out those shows and everything. Um, And yeah, wishing nothing but continued success. And once congratulations. I know you've been out since December, November with the promotion, but congratulations on getting started as a promoter. And we wish you nothing but the best. Before we shut this show down, where can fans find you on social media when they want to find out when the next
I think
rest TWI show is, and when they
um,
want to buy TWI merchandise?
Twitter is at Philly TWI. You can also catch me at Mike Fresh TWI on Twitter and Instagram, and Facebook's The Wrestling Independent. And
Awesome.
we're trying to set up an online store that works well for us. We just kind of want to be particular about it and make sure that we got something good going on. I think my wife has it set up pretty well though. She's the tech whiz. Oh, and two things that I don't think I've really mentioned is we're doing this well with our sales going into this show, and we're running against TNA. So I think that says some stuff too. And
Mm.
also on top of that, our first show went so well that the public relations officer for the Philadelphia Police Department reached out to us because they want to do their annual fundraiser for Christmas with us too. So that's going to be in October.
Awesome. That's congratulations on that, man. Like I said, I wish you guys nothing but continued success, man. I definitely gotta try my best to make that show, man. Like I know WrestleMania week's gonna be crazy, but I would definitely try my best to make it over to Woodbury and check out the show and everything. For those of y'all that just heard, follow TWI on social media. Hit that follow link on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you follow them on Facebook as well. And as I always say, cop that merch. If you can't make it to the shows, another way you can support is copping that TWI merch as well. And with that being said, it's about time for us to shut this show down. My eyelids are getting heavy. My stomach is rumbling. That means it's time for dinner and a nap. Maybe not in that order, but before I partake in those activities, Rob Bass, the Mel Gibson to my Danny Glover, the Charlie Haas to my Shelton Benjamin, and the Sean Spence to my Burton Guster. Where can fans find you on social media when they want to talk wrestling? Find out where your next appearance is, purchase Rob Bass merchandise, and where can bookers and promoters find you when they want to book you for their shows?
All right, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram at Rob_Base82, Facebook Rob Base. Next show you probably catch me at, I might be at the Wrestling Independent this weekend, depending on how I feel. I mean, I kind of had a crazy week. But other than that, the next show is going to be the All for One show. I'll be there in Philly, and then 1CW. After that, what I mean, so definitely check that out. And don't forget, you can always catch 1CW every week, Saturday morning, 10 a.m. You can catch our guest, Mike Fresh on there doing commentary every weekend, every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. If you're not in the area, you can go on DelmarvaSportsNetwork.com. You can stream it, from wherever you're at. Catch, episode 1 to right now, get caught up with everything going on, and you'll know what's happening, and yeah, you won't miss anything out.
And 1CW is on fire too. If you've seen our last few cards and some of the stuff we got coming up, it's on fire.
And not only that, we are the #1 show on Delmarva Sports Network. I mean, like out of everything on there, and Mike wasn't lying. Tens of thousands of people watch it, like legit. I mean, that's how many people watch that show. Like it's not like hyperbole or anything. Like legit. Oh, you're on mute.
Ah, my bad. So y'all definitely make sure you watch 1CW. They got a lot of great things coming up as well. I gotta get one of them 1CW shirts. They look pretty cool, by the way. Rob, you think you get me one of those? Maybe I get it in like black or something.
I think we got one. I got a blue and a white one. I got 2 of them. What I want, I need a hoodie though. I need to ask Hardy for a hoodie.
Yeah, I definitely gotta see if I get my hands on one of them. But yeah, follow 1CW as well. Follow all the promotions at All for One. Like I said, they're doing 4 shows in one area. Definitely go ahead and check them out. WrestleMania week, it's going to be a vibe. And if you want to follow, for those of you watching and listening, if you want to follow me on social media, not that I say a lot of cool things, but I do go to a couple of cool places every now and then. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Well, I just got my old Twitter account back, so I don't know how that's going to work now. But I have 2 of them, at the Remy Blue and at Remy Blue, whichever one you want to follow. If you want to follow both, go ahead. Pick your poison. I'm also on Instagram at the Remy Blue as well. our podcast is also on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Society, Twitch at Ringside Society 2019. We're on Facebook as a Facebook group. We're also on Spotify, and we also have a Teespring store where we sell official Ringside Society merchandise. Check that out. We have a lot of cool designs. And last but not least, we have a YouTube channel where you can see cool interviews like this one, like the one we recently had with, Sean Hardy, one of the other promoters that's actually doing a show on All for One as well, and many other great men and women in the world of professional wrestling. You can find those interviews on YouTube, and just to let y'all know, this is a 4-part series. We got 2 more, so make sure you hit that follow button, because we're going to have Dino, and we're going to have, I believe it's Jesus who runs 3LW, if I'm not correct. We're going to be having him on we're going to try to have him on as well too. And 4-part series, man. So make sure you check it out. And like I said, a lot of interesting stories. So make sure once you listen to all 4 episodes, definitely go ahead and check out All for One. You will not be disappointed. You will be impressed. So and to see the other 2 series, all you gotta do is really simple. It's not rocket science. It's so easy. Like they say, a caveman could do it. Go on YouTube, type in Ringside Society, and once you see that really good-looking dark blue and light blue yin yang sound, the blue things around it, that's when you know it's us. So make sure you subscribe to all our videos, because we got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and you don't want to miss a thing like Aerosmith in 1998. But with that being said, we just want to thank everybody tuning in live tonight. Thank you very much. We really, truly appreciate it. To those of y'all that are listening later on, we get a chance, thank you very much in advance. And those y'all that hate us, can't stand us, really and truly wish we would go away, well, like myself at the Golden Corral and Rob Bates at the Taco Festival, we're not going anywhere for a while.
They hate us because they ain't us.
And we ain't stopping. But with that being said, also, we're very well aware to everybody and their grandparents and their parents of a podcast. But, we're not your grandparents' podcast. We're not your parents' podcast. As a matter of fact, we're not just any podcast. It's going on 5 years. You think they'd actually get it now. Hashtag, we are not the same. Hey, yo, Rob Bass, one time for the mind, one time for the people, one time for the wrestling culture, one time for all for one, and one time for the wrestling independent and its ambitious owner who's going to blow things out of the water, Mike Fresh.
Woo!
Appreciate you guys.
What type of podcast are we?
We're the Wrestling Fans Podcast.
That's right. We're the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society, and we'll be back with another impressive guest on another impressive episode. But until then, we just have 4 favors for y'all. Stay safe, stay healthy, be excellent to each other, and enjoy wrestling. We out. Peace.
See y'all. Good night. Stay classy, Delaware. See ya.